Welcome to
the Padilla Family Homestead. He always gets me every single time. It's like super quiet, and then as soon as it goes to record, it's like woof. Expect the unexpected. So,
but it should be expected by now.
It should be, and it is, but it still catches me off guard. Okay, so welcome to the Padilla Family Homestead. Like
my
we
name
said,
is Eugenio Padilla. This is my wonderful wife, Jennifer.
Yes.
Padilla.
And we are here for Tea Time with Jen. We are on season 2, episode 11. We're almost at the end of this season. So before we jump into this topic, we're going to share with you what we are drinking. And we're actually drinking one of our favorite teas. We're drinking the same tea. What's the actual name?
Hot bourbon.
Nice. Like, what's the real name of it? It's
Bourbon.
not really bourbon, but it is bourbon in the name.
Alcohol in the morning, thank you. Oh yeah, very medley. Bourbon barrel.
It's called Bourbon Barrel Tea from the Stivers Homestead. It's one of their teas you can buy 1 ounce at a time.
It's so good.
So amazing. It used to be a holiday only tea.
Flavor packed.
And it's back without the holiday in front of it. And we are so excited.
It's manly tea.
There's no alcohol in it though.
It
just
grows
for
hair
the
on your
record.
chest.
It is not. Are you going to be serious for this video?
Oh yeah.
It actually gives you all the warm, cozy feelings. Like, it's very well paired, all the spices.
Fill up your mustache.
It will not, because I don't have the mustache.
I know. I'm for guys. Jeez.
I'm going to compose myself for a second here. Okay, so are we ready for today's topic since we've talked about the tea weirdly?
Weirdly?
I'll link where you can get this in the description.
If it gets me like
it's so
this,
good.
imagine what it'll do to your husbands.
You have no hair on your face.
Because I shave. I have to shave every 20 seconds.
Okay, we're going to jump into today's topic because we are obviously in a silly mood today, and I love it. This is my husband daily, so I love that he gets a show out sometimes in videos because people get to see the fun side of him.
Not the serious side.
Oh, that'll come out too. Your glasses are reflecting a whole lot, though. Just so you know.
Ching, 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 ching.
So, today's topic, we are talking about pivoting with intention. And yes, I think the first thing that comes to everybody's head, well, a lot of people's head, is that scene from Friends with the couch, pivot, right? Like, there's times in life, though.
To me, when you say pivot, it almost brings planking to mind.
Planking?
Yes.
How does that have to do with pivoting?
I don't know, it just rhymes.
Okay. So, sometimes in life, there are going to be things that happen, and you're going down a path, and all of a sudden you're going to have to pivot, and you're going to have to kind of change your direction a little bit. Sometimes that's because you're stuck in a situation and moving forward is not an option. Sometimes emergencies happen, and it's like, I've got to get out of here quick and go a different direction because this isn't working anymore.
Roadblocks happen in life.
They do. And sometimes you're going down a path and then you decide, you know what? I don't think this is the direction I'm supposed to take anymore.
Sometimes it could be for the better too.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's for the better.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're going to talk about, and doing that with intention, because there are times when it's easy to do it with intention. And then there are other times life throws you a whole lot of things that you just react instead of act. And that's part of pivoting with intention,
Yeah.
is not to knee-jerk react, but to act with intention. And so we're going to talk about some of the things that we have had to pivot through in life, and some of the things that we do to help us be able to pivot with intention easier. And so we're going to jump into that a little bit.
Yes.
So we've been married for 6 years.
20 years.
20 years. 6 years. We've been together about 7.5 years.
25 long, beautiful years.
Yes. And we have gone through our fair share of struggles right out the get-go. We've had struggles ahead of time. Now we're going to talk more the last few years, since we've been together more, for this video. I don't feel like I pivoted well early on. I think the reason why we pivot much better now in life, and intentionally, is because of our younger selves not doing it well.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to 100% communication, and then also understanding each other.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, one of the good things we did before we even got together is we made aware of all our baggage and what we brought to the table,
Yeah.
everything. And I think no proper couple will always be perfect, 100%. There's always going to be some disagreements and some issues here, some issues there, and some stuff that can be corrected and some things that can't be corrected. But as long as both parties know what's going on, they can both come together and work around these things or change things that are wrong.
You can get on the same page.
Yeah.
And it helps when life throws you things from the outside, if your home is set up in a way that it is your safe space.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge, something to get out of whatever the storms are. So we have had, just to do a quick highlight of some of the things that have caused us to pivot.
Yeah.
Since we have been together. Well, one, we got together, right? That was a life pivot.
Mm-hmm.
I had a almost teenage daughter. She wasn't quite teenage yet.
She was early teens.
Yeah, I think she was 11 when we met.
Yeah, 10 or 11.
And so we had the kid in the mix, right?
Mm-hmm.
And mixing our lives together. And so as you're learning each other, and you're learning how to live with each other, there are going to be times where, do you know what, this is the routine we're putting in place, and this doesn't seem to be working for all parties involved. So we're going to pivot our routines, right? Mm-hmm. There was a time when you got injured, you fell a huge space. And so he ended up down for a while after falling. Yeah. And that caused a pivot, right, in our lives. And then my daughter had to go gluten-free. She was getting really sick, so we pivoted some things then. And then we've had loved ones who have passed away. We have had world events happen over the last few years that have caused pivoting.
Other injuries.
The current one you've been dealing with a few years.
And other health issues,
right?
Like diabetes and
my teeth. Yeah. I end up having to go through and do, which will be a different story for a different day. But I end up having to have all my teeth out. And so these are dentures, very thankful for them. But that pivoted a few things, gallbladder health. So we've had lots of health. We've had financial issues. We have had Outside influences cause scares with things, financially, where money was coming from, all of the things that you're going down a path and all of a sudden you hit a roadblock, or this area is not working. So when we're talking about pivoting, we're coming at it from a place where we've learned to kind of pivot well and not let it be all consuming, which is why we feel comfortable kind of talking about it now. There's still areas in our life where we have to learn this, right? And we're learning to do it better all the time. And there's going to be new things that come up that are going to cause us to need to learn new ways to handle this. So for now, we're talking about some of the areas that we have dealt with.
Yeah.
And I think the first thing is when you are living in chaos and don't have a lot of peace and don't have some place to calmly go to and be safe, it makes pivoting extremely hard. It makes changing course, going to the unknown, figuring something out that much harder. So I think to make it easier, setting up that base, and we've talked about, I don't know if it was the last video or the upcoming video because we're pre-recording these. And so I'm not sure what order you're going to see them in, but we've talked a little bit about creating that refuge at home. And
it's our safe spot where we can communicate, talk about things that are uncomfortable talking around other people, or just say, hey, I need to talk to you about this because, you know, you're like, for me, you need to adjust this or just that. Or if I don't know how to tell somebody something, how would I tell them properly or whatever.
I think one of our big ways we did that with you, where you learned to communicate that, was when you first got diagnosed with diabetes. And we did the elimination. We eliminated everything.
Yeah.
And that was setting us up for failure all over the place. And he had to figure out how to say what he needed and come at it from a different way. Because if we kept going that way, there was going to be no success.
Right.
And so he said what wasn't working. He wasn't sure what would work, but he knew what wasn't working. He was able to voice that in our safe space. And then we came up with a different game plan and implemented that, and it worked. We pivoted directions.
Yeah.
And it made a huge, huge difference for us.
Yeah.
So having that layer, working on that, right? And then I think having knowledge and looking at things kind of, I don't want to say empathy necessarily, but trying to remove yourself from the problem, the trying to remove yourself from just the eyesight. If you're standing on a path looking down it and that's all you see, right? Trying to take yourself from there, looking down at the problem and looking down at the course of your life, going from an aerial view, right? Going, this is where I'm headed. I can kind of see this roadblock here. Well, let me try to figure out what would happen if I did these things. Me staying home for the first time
was so hard for you.
Huge pivot. And that was something that was really strong on his heart, that it was the right time. And I'm telling you, that was like one of the hardest things that I have done as a wife, was to go, I'm going to trust what you are saying and I'm going to do this. Like, that was a big, big thing for me. And I tried to look at the different views, and I can see that both paths could work. Like, I was able to raise up just a little bit, right? And see that me staying at work, this is what would happen. And me staying home, these are some of the differences that could happen, right? I had no clue, though, all of the benefits of that and what was coming, what storms were coming our way that really, really were huge, that I was home for them. And So that, like, sometimes you're not going to be able to see the whole picture because we can't predict the future. Right. We don't know what things are going to come. But there's some things that go with a gut feeling. There's some things that go with, it comes down to prayer and listening to the whisper of the Holy Spirit and what they're telling you. But doing what's right because it's right. There's some things that you're just not going to know, though.
Yeah.
And that is,
like, for me, I think a lot of the times, like that first time, it's just a lot of things were coinciding that, to me, I felt in my heart that it was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. The job had a lot of stress, and your health was changing due to stress, and then on top of that, I just was listening to my heart and praying over things, and things in my heart just was telling me it was the right thing to do, and that's why I had her stop working and just stay at home. And it was strange because after a few other things happened, after she left for work, it made more sense to me.
Yeah, we knew my stepmom was getting sicker, but she passed shortly after that. And then my daughter ended up being down and sick for almost a year. And then my husband got injured, and he's been dealing with that. And so, like, we could not have predicted my daughter or my husband's issues and how much I would be needed in that moment. And one of the big fears was finances. And that to me was a huge concern. And when we broke it down, and we didn't know all the facts, so we couldn't break it down completely because we had never done it. Yeah. But when we broke it down, we looked at how much I was spending in gas to commute, how much I was spending, all of us were spending eating out because there just wasn't the time in the day, and I wasn't at the place I am now with the skills and the ability to food prep the same way. And so when you added all those costs up, I was actually doing majority of my work to pay for all of these other things. And so it was a small amount of money that we had to reallocate things to make it work and be cost effective. And we gave a few things up, and we refocused and reshifted things. Buying in bulk was a huge one that saved us money. So there was things that happened, but we pivoted with intention though there. And that's one of those things that is key. When we made the change, before we made the change, we planned on pivoting, right? Before we made that change, well, what is this going to look like? Yeah. And how is this going to affect us? What are the things we can put into place? Here's our plan A, B, C, D, E, all the way down to Z. And how are the ways that we can shift things if we need to, and so forth. And doing it that way, where if you're pivoting with intention and you're making changes in your life with intention, then you have time to prepare. You have time to problem solve ahead of time for things that you can think of that might happen. And that makes pivoting easier. Yeah. That makes that change easier. I did end up going back because we weren't sure what was happening financially a little bit. I ended up going back to work, and I only went back to work for, I want to say, less than 6 months, unfortunately. I got really sick, and then my blood pressure spiked like crazy, and I had to be done. It ended up being you have to leave, and you have to leave now, because my blood pressure was up in stroke zone. So that time around was easier to stay home because I'd already done it once. We kind of knew we could do it. The financial question kind of mellowed itself out, and that had already resolved itself.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was working not because we needed me to work, but because we wanted me to work to save money towards hopefully one day buying property.
Yeah.
So that took that extra income out and went back to this is what our daily needs are, right? So that pivot we did again. It came fast, but it was easier, and we did it intentionally for health. But it was easier to do because we already had everything laid out. Health pivots, doing them intentionally. Okay. When you have a health crisis come up, there's a lot of ways you can approach it.
Yeah.
And we have gone back and forth. We both have very different views sometimes on how to approach things. I think we're more on the same page now on a lot of stuff. The old me would have said, as soon as they hand you medication for a health issue, you take it, like do exactly what the doctor says, and so forth. The newer me is more of a question, and I don't think everything is a one size fits all. And my body, I don't want to sacrifice the rest of my body due to taking this medication. And so both of us have had health things that have come up between blood pressure and sugars. And both of us decided to take medication, but was very clear from the get-go we wanted to be on medication that we could get off of. That this was not our goal to stay on them, and if it was something we had to stay on, that we weren't going to take it, basically. And so it gave us some leeway to be able to make the lifestyle changes that we needed to, do the research we needed to, and get ourselves to the point where we can get off. Now, at the time of recording this video, you are off of insulin, but you're still taking the medicine that helps your body regulate blood, like the blood, how it uses it or whatever, the blood sugars. So I am still on a very low dose of a blood pressure medication, but I'm very close to just coming off of them. So I'm setting some stuff up to naturally be able to, if I still need extra support, have natural things in place. And doing those things carefully, both consulted the doctor and the pharmacist, so don't freak out. Those are things that are in play, but our lifestyle choices are helping us to be able to handle those. And if you're somebody who has the knowledge already, then you can pivot into a new lifestyle change and maybe not need to go onto the medication route. Sometimes you're a person who you're just overwhelmed by it and you have to do the medication and then work your way off. Right. Or some people, you don't even have an option. You just have to take the medication. And I think it's weighing the pros and cons and figuring out what's going on. Knowledge is power when it comes to that. But if you are actually doing the research, you are pivoting into a direction purposefully. It is not chaos. The sugar levels, we should have had some idea, but for some reason we didn't. And we were very new onto our health journey, eating out a whole lot. We were... I think it came down to reading labels and then actually testing myself. The whole testing 2 hours after every meal helped because any change I did, I could actually see if this food was helping me, or if it really helped us learn. Or if it wasn't, rice will spike your sugars like crazy. Salads with balsamics, anything with balsamics will drop your It will stop a spike.
Yeah, it will stop a spike.
It helps stop a spike. It helps,
yeah. So just learning those little things, and who knew milk had a ton of sugar in it?
Yeah.
Going with alternate sources of milk, like coconut, unsweet coconut milk, or stuff like that. I actually enjoyed coconut milk, unsweet. To me, I didn't notice a difference. To a lot of people, there is a difference, but I like cereal, low, like, for fiber and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Nothing sugary, anything like that. Breads, reducing breads help too.
Reducing breads and changing the type of bread that we ate. Your sugar spiked differently with store-bought bread versus sourdough. There were a lot of things. So I think the key to this, because I feel like there's so many ways we can talk about, and I don't want to talk about all the negativity, and we talk about all kinds of things in our videos, and our health journeys have come up a lot. So the food journeys, the health journeys, the finance we don't talk about as often. Guys, we're still living in an apartment because we're pivoting. Like we just went through a massive pivot, and it's trying to do it. The reason for the cause and the pivot was not intentional, but how we decide to choose to move has to be intentional. Because otherwise you're going to be wandering down paths lost, and it's going to make your life so much harder. So when a storm comes in, or you have to make a change, or something's going on, to stop, slow down, do not react. You need to act. And in that, you are going to be able to find all kinds of these other things that we have talked about. There's the ability to learn new skills is going to help you pivot. The ability to let go of certain things, right? We've talked about that. The ability to build relationships is really important in communication inside pivoting. Your parenting style, sometimes you're going to pivot when how you choose to parent, but how you're parenting is going to reflect on how your kids are going to respond to pivoting, right? And so all of these big things that we do with intention fall into all these other categories. They cross into each other, and it can be really hard to go into something that you don't know. And I'm not going to go into all the financial stuff on here because it's just not here or there. But we have goals, we have dreams, and we're working towards them.
Right.
How we work towards them is going to change depending on what the circumstances are around us. But the end goal is still focused and the same. And so that also helps as you are changing directions and how you are responding to things, remembering what your goal is. Have the end in sight, because that helps you make the decisions. Well, I'm not going to go back this way then, right? If I'm going to pivot, if I can't go straight to it, I'm going to make a sideline, come around, pivot again, come here, and then go. Like, there's things that you can do to still get there. It's not giving up, right? Pivoting with intention means I have a clear guideline. I know what my goals are. I know what my whys are. I know where my foundation is. I have my safe place. I have relationships built up around me. I have my children with me. I have the space in my heart from loving, forgiving, and letting go and healing that I can keep moving forward now, learning, and each pivot is a learning experience. Right. Each pivot brings something new for you to be able to learn and go towards be better and move towards your goal. And sometimes something so big is going to happen that this goal can no longer be the final goal.
Right.
And that's a big portion of sometimes you have to let go and redream. And we're not we're not at that point. Our goal
No.
has changed a little bit. It's still the same goal, but some of the things we're planning on doing in that goal are a little bit different based off of physical demands and so forth.
And there'll always be changes here and there.
There will. And as you grow and you learn, sometimes your desires change.
Yeah.
I would never have thought, and I think I've said this in a different video, I would never have thought I would be sharing gluten-free recipes. Never have thought that. But that's where our life led us. I have a big why for it. I have reasons why that's what I'm working on, and making a resource for that and moving through that. I have a big why for why I cook with lower sodium now. I have a big why on why I am doing, which sugars we're using, what types of breads we're doing, what we sweeten things with, and how we approach things. I have big whys for why I do every single one of those things. And each of those new things has shifted me into the path I'm on now, right? I'm still headed to that same goal, but how I'm getting there is a little bit different than what I would have imagined 6 years ago.
Right.
It's just different.
It is.
And being able to be on the same page with your spouse, and it may not be immediately on the same page, but having that ability to safely come together, communicate respectfully, listen to each other, hear the heart of what they're trying to say, and trying to make a way to work things together and find a way where the common ground is, right? And move forward with that. So I think overall that's our biggest thing for pivoting with intention is life is going to throw you all kinds of things. It just is. Things are going to happen. Don't give up. Build your foundation. Always be learning. And then pivot with intention. Keep your goal in mind. And make decisions. Don't react. Act. Don't react. And don't lose hope.
Yeah. Have faith.
Yeah. And then let go when you need to let go.
Yeah.
Because there are times when you need to let go of things.
Yeah.
We just recently went through that.
Yeah, and
so,
you know, some let goes are for the good, and some let goes, you know,
are hard.
Eventually you'll get back if you need them back.
Yeah, depending on the type. But sometimes you don't see it right away how this could benefit you, what you can gain in place of letting go of something.
Yeah.
So that's our encouragement to you. I would love to hear some of your things that have helped you be able to pivot with intention in life. It's encouraging to learn from other people and to see some of the things that they've gone through, some of the processes they have set up, systems they have set up in their life to help that process be easier to pivot when life throws you storms. I do really feel like being prepared as much as possible and always gaining knowledge helps with that. And I know I've talked a lot about this, but I do want to repeat. We went like 2.5 months without a paycheck at one point. Yeah. And the only reason why there's 3 little things, big things, that helped us to be able to survive. Number 1 was we had a pantry built up. So the majority of our food we ate through our pantry. Yeah. Now there were things that we were missing from that, meats and some fresh vegetables and so forth. And we were able to go to the other thing that saved our butt, which is where we are, is food banks. Yeah. And we were able to go there and fill the gaps that we had here, and we didn't have to buy groceries for 2.5 months. Yeah. Now we really needed them at that 3-month mark. Yeah. But the pantry we built made it possible. The other thing was relationships, and my mom stepped in and helped for a couple of the bills that really needed like instant pay. and then we paid her back for those. So it's being able to do life with people.
Yeah.
So but that's a huge, how do you have peace in that time, right? And how can you pivot with intention and still go towards the guidelines you need and the things that you need? It can be tough, so we get it, but we'd love to hear what you're going through, some of the things that you have found that have worked for you, and what's some of your goals that you're working towards? What when life throws at you are you staying focused on? We'd love to hear that in the comments, so make sure that you like the video if you like these. I'm remembering it this time. Like the videos, drop a comment below, subscribe. I'm going to leave the playlist to all the other Tea Times with Jens if you like them in the description below. And we'd love to hear from you guys. We are getting close to wrapping out this season, so if you can let us know some of the topics that maybe we haven't touched on in the last 2 seasons, that you would like us to prepare for the following season.
Yep.
So I think that's it. Anything else you want to add?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Thank you guys for joining us. I will also leave the Stivers information in the description below. Grab yourself some bourbon barrel tea.
Good tea.
There's no bourbon in it, I swear. So grab that. It's so good. And we will see you on the next video.
It's fancy.
Fancy.